Hello everyone, my name is Clayton Chau. I specialize in psychiatry and mental health. We're here today to have a conversation with my guest, Dizzy Wright. Hi Dizzy, how are you?
How you doing? I'm great.
Thank you for taking the time out in your busy
Thank you for
schedule.
having me. Appreciate it.
Talk to us about it.
No doubt.
So, one of the things that you've spoken about publicly is the fact that you was homeless at one time in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So, my mom's a single mom, 5 kids. I have 3 brothers and my sister. I'm the second oldest, and none of our dads are around. And I think that my mom was just trying to hold everything together, and I think it just got really difficult. And from there, we found ourselves in a shelter home. Yeah.
How old were you then?
I was 14.
Okay. What was it like for a teenager to live in a shelter?
It was, at the time, it was embarrassing, you know, just because I was 14 and you don't want to tell nobody that you getting off the bus and you about to walk to the shelter home down the street, you know what I mean? But I pretty much was a positive person growing up, so I always tried to see the best in things.
And so we know that there's children who we call unstable house, right? So it could be motel kid or kids who live in the shelters, like your story, or kids who live triple up in a garage and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
How did you have friends? How do you have a relationship with friends that you have to hide that fact?
It's difficult. I could only imagine especially for, you know, me and my brothers, we all handled it different. You know, everybody kind of handled it their own little way. But it's difficult to not be stable. So I think, you know, and we moved a lot. Like, we lived in a lot of hotels and just like that, you know. Just trying to find that stationary place. It was very difficult. The most difficult thing is really just making those friends that you could be friends. You find yourself like always being a new kid, and yeah, it was difficult.
So at that age, you know, beside finding shelters and motel, and then finding put food on the table and what have you, healthcare, what was that like for you?
Not having it, you felt it when you didn't have it, you know. But having it, I feel like just helped my mom out a lot, keep things in order, just that little bit of assistance. And I think not having it kind of, I don't know, it just takes a part of things away that kind of like can't be fulfilled. And you can only do the best that you can in life, so it made things challenging.
So, being homeless, how long were you living in shelter?
About a year.
About a year. Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, it was a little minute.
Yeah. And do you think that it's affect the way you see the world now today?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Tell us more.
It just put me in a position to like appreciate the little things. So I think it just made me like a real like compassionate person, understanding person. Going through that part of that year being in the shelter, it wasn't really technically like about race or like color. It was like everybody was going through a struggle, and it made me see the world a little different. Like, we're all going through stuff, you know what I mean? And it's just not us. And I think that just opened my eyes up to being more understanding to other people's issues, I would say.
How does that affect the way you write music?
Oh, a lot. Yeah, a lot. Because, you know, I just want the world to be a better place, you know. And if I can contribute to that, then, you know, I'm going to try to do that.
I think that's why you probably publicly talk about that, right? And what's your goal of, what would you tell your fan?
Push through. You can overcome anything. I let people know because, you know, a lot of people think that you have to kind of do the typical, or you have to think a certain way. You have to think the same as other people that kind of want to do what you want to do, you know, and you can be whoever you are and just express yourself and spread your light however you want. And I just want to be an example of somebody that just pushes through and tries to do what he enjoys doing to motivate somebody to do it for themselves.
So a lot of kids that I encounter who are unstably housed, let's say, whether it be in shelter or in motel, struggle emotionally with their situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of things that you can't have or you can't do if you live from shelter to shelter.
Yeah.
How was that year affected your emotional well-being?
It made my relationship with my mom really weird. You get to a point where you start growing up and you start seeing the little things that your parents could have possibly did a little better, or you start questioning some of the things that they're doing. And like they always say, stay in a child's place. You know what I mean? But as a child, you have nothing to do but be an observer and learn from the things around you. So I think just being able to see my mom make not the best decisions made our relationship really weird. And you start playing the blame game. Like, well, why am I here? How did I get here? How are we gonna get out? What's next? How can I get them basketball shoes? Because Christmas coming up. You know what I mean? And as a kid, you're like not really worried about how to make it happen, but just how is it gonna happen. And I think I went into a stage where I was just playing the blame game, you know? Like, somebody had to make this happen. We got here, you know? And I think it just made me like a to myself kind of person. You know, I just kind of started keeping my emotions to myself and just learning how to figure it out.
Was there any suggestion that maybe you can see a counselor or anything like that? I guess, did anyone kind of notice that you trying to keep things to yourself and withdraw?
Nah, not at all. I mean, it's five of us, so it's like nothing could ever be too big of a deal, you know. I think that's how me and my brothers helped each other, you know, really just not letting anyone in, you know, our immediate family ponder on something for too long or be hung up on something for too long. We always try to, you know, switch the vibe. So even being in the shelter, we like, you know, tried to turn the shelter into like home, you know, and like it was only cool when you told somebody that didn't live in a shelter. But everybody in the shelter thought we was the coolest people in the damn block. You know what I'm saying? So it's just all about what you make it. It really is.
So you found a positive way of coping with it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
So we were talking about how your family, at least the five of you siblings, creatively cope with living in the shelter and was a very tight knit. Tell us more about that.
Like the shelter home had like this basketball court. Like it had like this gate, you walk through this gate and then you walk, and then there was like benches on the side and you go down, and then it was like the living area where everybody lived. You walked in these doors, it's like a few different like little rooms with like a bunch of bunk beds and stuff like that. But there was this basketball court outside. And you know, just being 14, having access to something that you love, I think that helped me personally a lot. But you know, it just depends on what type of kid you are, you know, and how you look at things. I choose to share my journey and my story because I feel like it will inspire people to continuously push through. And I also share to let people know that it's okay to go through your growing process, even if you make mistakes, even if you don't say everything right, even if your beliefs change, even no matter what. It's just important for you to go through your growing process and not somebody else's. And I think that I like to tell my story because I'm one of those kids that, you know, I was in a shelter. I could relate to everybody, I feel like. And like I said, I think that I'm not one of those dudes that's just like, you know, only focus on a race problem, you know. I realize that there's a life problem. You know, we all go through different emotions and different things, and it doesn't always buckle down to just one thing. And being able to use my platform to talk to people about different topics, or even just showing them an example of how I went through a situation or how I handled a situation, to maybe inspire them to handle it similar or even better, or use my situation to be a better version of me. You know?
I think what you said so powerful is that speak out and express yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that get a lot of our kids in depressions and eventually, you know, attempt suicides, that they don't feel like there's an outlet, they don't feel like they can't do that. And that message is really powerful.
And I would say this because, you know, a lot of people who are depressed, from what I've came across, don't always utilize the people around them.
That's right.
You know,
the
so
isolations.
I was
feeling
yeah.
like they're the only one
Yeah.
that going through it.
I don't know how you shake that funk fully, but I will just be the one to say that you should always try to just talk to the people that you feel like care about you the most. Absolutely. And you know, be expressive and be open to new ideas. Yeah. You know, if you're going through something and you're not really satisfied where you're at in life, and somebody says, well, let's go hiking, and you don't really hike, go hike. Be open to new ideas, be open to bringing new things into your life, and find a way to just keep it going, and it'll work itself out.
So being active, right?
Active is very important.
Isolation is the worst thing that you can do for someone.
Be active, don't isolate.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, my man.
Thank you for sharing your journey with us. Very powerful.
Thank you.
And I think that the youngster in the family that hear your story will give them strength. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate you.